And good morning, everyone. Welcome to Education, Leadership, and Beyond, Surviving and Thriving. My name is Andrew Murata, and good morning to everyone listening live on Country 107.7 WDLC, 106.9 WYNY, and Wall Radio on 94.1, 94.9, 105.7, 106.1, 1340 AM, 101.5 HD2, and now on Pocono 96.7 on Sunday mornings, or if you're listening on demand on the app, or listening on from my website at a later date. So good morning, everyone. Happy Veterans Day. I do want to take a pause and certainly thanks all of our veterans that are out there, all of our veterans that are listening, as well as active military personnel on this special day. And one of my guests is one of my former students. He's my first former student on the show. And coming up in our next segment is Tim Shearer. Tim is a private first class member of the Army, 89 Delta, and he is in the Explosives Ordnance Disposal Unit. Tim was a class act when he was with us in Port Jervis, and excited to have him in studio here this week before Veterans Day. Very excited to have Tim on and to talk a little bit about his experience in the military and some leadership points. That being said, I do want to get started with today's program, and again, it is a special Veterans Day show, and happy to have Tim on. So this is show number 23, and again, my name is Andrew Murata, host of Education, Leadership, and Beyond, Surviving and Thriving. And over the first 22 shows, I have made a point to try to work in a very positive attitude, a very positive mindset, always looking at things in a positive way and with a growth mindset. I've been in education. This is my 20th year. I grew up in I would say a strict Italian household, Italian-American household. My parents enforcing the rules and respect. And, I remember getting whacked on the back of the head in church and making us sit up. And I always remember even my dad made us kneel on the kneelers, leaning forward, never rest on your butt there. And all of those little things along the way, I just remembered a sense of discipline in my family and, respect for your elders. And being in education 20 years and just more recently, I don't know if I'm getting older or is it that I'm seeing it more and more now, but I've seen a decline in the respect levels of a lot of young people. I certainly don't want to group everyone together, but in a general sense, there is an extreme comfortability with things. People being just lax, that respect level is not always where I'd like it to be. And certainly now with what's happening on the national scene, people taking very public displays against our flag and public kneelings. And, a lot of people take it as disrespectful. Certainly on Veterans Day, those that serve in the military to protect our country, that's a tough thing to swallow. So I did want to broach that topic today and talk about it a little bit. Before I bring my guest and my former student on, Tim Shearer. So some of the things we've seen that it's a kind of a chipping away at the armor of respect or a whittling away of a sense of discipline just over the years. Kids being late to things, kids not putting the effort that we want to see in their work and in things that even might be important to them. And then the flip side of that, you look at what our United States military does, the branches of the military, things that they stand for. And I know the military is not perfect. They have faults just like anywhere else. Nothing's perfect. But the things that they stand for and are trying to teach our young people, and those are certainly some of the things that we try to teach in Port Jervis, where I'm the principal at the school. So I just jotted down some things when I think of the military that come to mind. I did not grow up in a military family. I did not have direct relatives that were in the Army. My father-in-law, after I got married, Eugene Grimes, he was show number 2. He was in the Navy, and certainly learned about that the more I got to know the Grimes family. But when I think about the military and some of the things we try to teach in Port Jervis outside our academics, I'll start with respect. I think about the way our military stands when it is the Pledge of Allegiance, or there is a military presentation. I remember as a little kid going to the tomb of the unknown soldier, and remember just how the soldier was walking back and forth, and to know that's happening 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, like, oh my God, that is just incredible. But just the respect levels, having had the opportunity to officiate at Army, at West Point, at Navy down in Maryland. I even had the opportunity to officiate the Army-Navy basketball game. I know the football game is a national event, but what a level of respect that I see when I go to those places. The second thing that in my mind when I think of the military, discipline, what they're trying to teach these young men and women and what they represent each and every day. They literally are fighting good versus evil. Obviously, the military being the good. And, my kids now are getting to the age where they like the superhero movies, and we've been watching it with them. And, there's always that story of good versus evil. And for those that are listening that lived through 9/11, we saw that in our world. The Boston bombings, we saw that evil. This recently, the shooting in Las Vegas, we saw evil. And to see our military respond in the way they do, and each and every day protecting us, it's literally a scene of good versus evil. Number 4, I think about freedom. I listened to Lee Greenwood today, God Bless the USA, and that great song. And, my kids are growing up in a world where there is freedom, where they don't see war like my parents' generation did. In my eyes, growing up, I was born in 1975, and I didn't see war in my life. It's certainly a different war that we're fighting these days that you don't really see that they did back in the day. But to have freedom, we have freedom because of our military personnel and the leaders out there. Number 5, a standard of excellence. Always striving to be the best and be excellent in the things that they do. Structure and organization. I do remember as a student, I visited West Point and almost went there in college, and I remember the plebes, I think they call them, the first year students at West Point. Their room, they had to make the bed a certain way, the shoes had to be a certain way. They had to memorize the front page of the New York Times. I was like, oh my God, it just seems so demanding, and I did make the choice not to attend. And I wonder now, looking back, I wonder what my life would have been like if I did, but always was impressed with the structure and the organization. And then certainly the academies, as I mentioned earlier, that's something that I've got to see up close. We had a student last year go to the Air Force Academy from Port Jervis. That was a great event. And thinking about the academic excellence, that is certainly something we strive for in Port Jervis at our schools, and to see it in our military academies, West Point, the Navy, and the Air Force. Just tremendous, thoughts about that. And, so I jotted those down. I'm sure I could go on and on and on. And, if you'd like to leave some thoughts today, if you are in the military, you have a family in the military, you're a veteran, certainly email in andrew@neversinkmediagroup.com, or hit me up on Twitter, your thoughts about your time served. I know I don't know it all here, and those were some of the things that I reflected on in preparing for the show. So again, to go back and recap, thinking about the military and all that they do for our country, all that they stand for, these are what came to mind in my reflections. Respect discipline, being the good in the good versus evil. Number 4, fighting for our freedom and that my children can grow up in a world that's free. Number 5, a standard of excellence. Number 6, the structure and the organization that they represent, following those orders from the commanders and etc. And number 7, the academic excellence in the academies. I find very tremendous and great that we have those academies in our country. So that is all for our opening segment here on Education, Leadership, and Beyond, Surviving and Thriving. Again, this is show number 23. We're on WDLC, WYNY, Wall Radio, and Pocono 96.7. We'll be right back with today's guest, Tim Shearer. And welcome back, everyone, to Education, Leadership, and Beyond, Surviving and Thriving. My name is Andrew Murata, and we are on WDLC, WYNY, and Wall Radio, and Pocono 96.7. Excited to welcome in today's guest in studio. It's always nice to have the guest come in studio versus the phone. But this is my first former student that we have on the show. He's doing great things out there in the real world. In my opinion, a true young leader. And certainly here on Veterans Day, I did want to have Tim Shearer on the program. Tim, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And I'm glad you're home safely. I know you're putting in 2 weeks to help out with recruiting, and that gets you a leave from where you're at, correct?
Yep. I'll be here. I just graduated EOD school, and be up at Fort Drum, New York.
Okay.
5 hours away pretty soon.
And Tim, tell our listening audience where, you graduated Port Jervis High School 2 years ago.
Yep.
And where are you in the Army right now?
Right now I'm a private first class. That's like third up from the bottom pretty much. So I don't really mean much, but so from the top down it goes president, and then you have the Secretary of Defense, and then you're going to have your Secretary of the Army. It changes once in a while. And then you have a 4-star general, 3-star general, 2-star general, 1-star general. And you have a colonel, a lieutenant colonel, a major, a captain, and then you have a first lieutenant, a second lieutenant. And then for enlisted ranks, you're going to have the sergeant major of the Army, who's right-hand man to the 4-star general, and then sergeant major, and then first sergeant, master sergeant, sergeant first class, staff sergeant, sergeant, and then a specialist, and then me, private first class. Then you have private and other private.
Wow, Tim, there's that many steps in the chain of command.
There are.
I did not know that.
Yep.
Well, you know what, Tim? Those guys at the top, they had to start somewhere too.
Oh, yeah.
I'm your former principal, but I'm still going to yell at you. You do mean a lot, and you are doing great things for our country.
Oh,
so
thank you very much.
I don't want you to say that again. I appreciate what you're doing, being in the Army. So, Tim, how has your experience been? You've been 2 years now, or no, a year and a half,
year
right?
and 3 months.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Yep.
How has the experience been?
It's been a pretty great experience. I've learned a lot of things never thought I'd learn. Learn how to take care of things that blow people up. So something different, something you never thought you'd do in your life.
How did you get into, and I know you said EOD school, for those listening, Tim, what does that stand for?
It stands for Explosive Ordnance Disposal. So layman's terms, like the artillery shells and everything, if they don't blow up the way they're supposed to, you go out there and either make them safer to move and blow them up somewhere else, or you blow them up right there on the spot, depending on where they land.
And when you were a kid, Tim, were you like playing with matches and stuff and like that kind of? Yeah.
Not really. I kind of wanted to do the same job my dad did, but this kind of seemed a lot more appealing when I got to the recruiting station, so I figured I'd try it out. Were you just checked it in a box? How did you get to that? It's kind of hard to get out of the bat because you kind of want smart people for it, but yeah, I don't know. It just kind of figured out, worked out, made it through school. So tell me what, we're going to talk about Port Jervis in our next segment. You're doing your math, your social studies. When you say EOD school, like, are you in a classroom? Are you out in the field? What's happening? It's a lot of both. It's at least 30 tests the whole time. Some of them are classroom. You do a lot of classroom work. You do a lot of like practical stuff on things. Make sure you can actually do things. render things safe. It's pretty tough. You need an 85% above on all tests to pass them. So it's pretty academically challenging.
Yeah. And when I was a kid, Tim, it was always, cut the red wire. Like,
yeah, there's not much of that, believe it or not.
It's not like that anymore.
No.
How technical is it?
It's all you really need is a good, mechanical background, kind of, which I really didn't have. I kind of just figured that out. A little bit of basic electronics doesn't help. Just have an open mind, be there to learn.
Okay.
And you could probably make it.
And so you'll be up at Fort Drum, and in 2 weeks, will you go back? What's your next step now in the Army?
Just going to be in normal force of the Army now. So It's a super long school. So I'll train. If there's a call around here, somebody accidentally brought a grenade home or something, you got to go take care of that. The other thing EOD does a lot is they do VIP missions for like local governments and everything, just because they have the clearance to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So you just kind of make sure everything's okay in their house. Nobody planted a bomb in there while they're gone.
So if the president were to come visit Port Jervis High School, they might call in one of your crew to do a sweep.
All the units in the country do rotation, so it just kind of comes up.
Okay. Tim, you mentioned your dad. He was a cavalry scout in the Army. Your mom was in the Army. You came from a family of Army. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what their influence has meant to you and your decision-making to join the Army?
I mean, yeah, I've always kind of wanted to join the Army. They never steered me towards it, away from it. They always just kind of let me, make things up for myself. I was thinking about going to college and all, but once I figured out how expensive that was, I figured I'd rather go to the Army first, and then if I don't think it's for me in 4 years, I could get out and use my GI Bill, go for free and get an education.
So for those listening, Tim, tell me, what is the commitment when you signed your name on the line? How long is the commitment for?
For me, it was 4 years. So I heard they're giving out 2-year contracts now. Some people get 6 or 8 years. So it all depends. It all depends on your job or all that.
And in terms of now getting your education after that, can you stay in the Army and would still be able to attend college?
Absolutely. I could go right now if I wanted to. I think after a year, my GI Bill is good to go. But we'll see. We'll see how busy I am upstate, and then I might start attending.
Okay. So you'll be at Fort Drum.
Yep.
And are you in a dorm? Are you in an apartment? How does that work?
I'll be in a dorm for now. If I don't plan on getting married or anything like that, but married folk, they supply you a house and everything and money for food and everything like that. Okay. So the Army takes care of people for sure.
Tim, what's the best thing about being in the Army?
Best thing for me is probably just meeting a bunch of interesting people from all over the place. I got a buddy who I went through school with, and he's from California, whole other side of the country. It's just cool meeting everybody, brotherhood.
Okay. And each day, sometimes in high school, maybe you might have been in a class kind of like, oh, this is dragging a little bit, or you weren't into it. Was the fact that you chose this EOD, was it something that was stimulating for you?
Definitely not the classroom stuff and all. That was kind of, a kick in the butt when I figured that part out. I thought you were just going to go blow things up, do cool guy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But, I'm definitely glad I made it through and hope it changes a little bit for the better. But, yeah, I'm not too sad on how it turned out.
Okay. Tim, how about, you always hear about basic training. I hear so many people that just, you're out and they're making you run at 3 a.m. and, they come in and put the light, that you hear that kind of stuff. You certainly see it in the movies.
Yeah.
Does it really happen like that? The guy come in screaming in your face and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, it happens. You get yelled at, but most of the time you're just standing around doing nothing. If it's 80% boredom and then maybe a little bit of physically hard stuff.
A little action. How was the basic training? Was it tough for you?
It wasn't super tough. No, it's not hard at all. They teach you how to do everything. Teach you how to tie your shoes, make a bed. Just do what you're told, and you'll make it through. You don't have to worry about that.
I know you learned that from your folks, and certainly being in Port Jervis. What was harder, football camp up in the summer with Polanis, or the Army basic training?
Oh, that's a tough question. I don't know who I'm gonna hear from more if I answer that wrong. I don't know.
I don't know if the Army's listening, but I'm sure Coach Polanis is tuning
They're
in.
always listening.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I don't know. Polanis is pretty hard, but that was only a week, so
Sure.
I guess the Army would have to do it. 10 weeks away. First time away from home for a long time, I guess.
10 weeks it was.
Yep.
Wow. Tim, the name of this program is called Education, Leadership, and Beyond. And you're a leader in my eyes. Even though you're a young man and, you joining the Army, you always had leadership at school, the way you carried yourself, just kind of calm, cool, and collected, but always with respect. What have you learned about leadership being in the Army?
I learned pretty much what you said. It takes a lot of respect on both ends. The guy in charge needs to equally respect the guy below him and, make sure he's doing the right thing. And the guy below him needs to respect the guy ahead of him to, listen to what he tells him and stuff like that,
And Tim, are you, this is a question I was thinking about asking you. When you were in school, we wanted you to know certainly what you were learning, but why you were learning it.
Mm-hmm.
You hear so many times kids at school, why do I have to learn? We want you to have the bigger picture. Does the Army expect you to just do something because the guy above you told you to do it?
I mean, that's the premise, but that's the difference between good leadership and bad leadership,
Mm-hmm.
A good leader might explain to you why you're doing it, but some people just want you to do things just because they think it's the right way to do it, There's, especially in my career field, there's different ways to take care of explosive things and whatnot.
Tim, with that, let's say they're telling you to take the bomb apart, step A, step B, and step C. Mm-hmm. And you're a bright guy, you're a sharp guy, you in your mind say, you know what? I think D, E, and F is going to work better.
Yep.
Is that a situation where you could say, hey, I'd like to try this. Can we do, is that something?
Yeah,
or is it, no, you got to do it this way. Give me 20,
No, if they think it'll work, you're not, everybody is kind of smart. If it makes sense, they'll think it over too.
Okay, so it's not like I'm giving you a direct order and you got to do it this way.
Not always. Sometimes it is. Not always.
All right. Tim, they glorify in the movies, certainly when the Army, people getting in trouble, you hear the order the code red or, court martial that,
Mm-hmm.
they would, Did you ever see any of that kind of stuff that you're able to talk about? I don't want to get you in trouble.
Yeah, no. I can talk about that.
People misbehaving at all?
Sometimes. I mean, I know a couple of people have already been kicked out of the Army just for underage drinking and stuff like that. But, yeah, it's definitely a real thing. But if you're not dumb, just don't do it. If you're going to get in trouble for it, don't do it, and you'll be fine.
That's a pretty simple thing, Tim.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yep.
Your mom and dad would be happy to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Well, Tim, we are up against a break, so we do have to take a commercial break. But I do want people to stay tuned. We'll be right back with today's guest, Tim Shearer, Explosives Ordnance Disposal Specialist on Education, Leadership, and Beyond, Surviving and Thriving. Welcome back, everyone, to Education, Leadership, and Beyond, Surviving and Thriving. Today is a special show here on Veterans Day, November 11th, 2017. I'm very excited to have on my first former student, Port Jervis class of 2016, Tim Shearer. 16, right, Tim? Not 15, 16.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Tim Shearer. And Tim is a member of the U.S. Army, and he is part of the EOD. It sounds cool when you say EOD, Tim.
It does.
Explosives Ordnance Disposal. What is 89 Delta, Tim? What does that mean?
That's just the code in the computer or whatever. Everybody uses that instead of the other thing.
Okay.
So.
All right. Tim, we spoke a lot about your experience in the military. My opening segment about what the military, in my mind, feels like. There's so much happening now in our country regarding respect for our flag and people having very public protests where they're not standing for the pledge and they're kneeling, that kind of stuff. What are your thoughts on that, Tim?
I mean, we fight for the right to do that kind of thing, so I'm not saying I necessarily agree with it or anything like that, but I guess it is their right, and I can't deny them their right to do that. But I will say I heard they're supposedly protesting police brutality or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see why they have to do it during the national anthem.
Mm-hmm.
They want to protest that.
Yeah.
But
And you, as a member of the military, do you find it offensive now? Do you take it personal, or is that something you say, hey, that we fought for that freedom?
I've never really took anything personal per se. So I mean, we've talked about it, just me and the other guys back in Florida, and some people take it super personal, some people don't. It doesn't bother me. So.
Did you ever see it in Port Jervis in school, Tim, where a kid wouldn't stand for the pledge each morning? Did you ever see that?
I have.
And then what did people say, like, hey, get up?
Some people are like that. Some people aren't. I just prefer to keep to myself. So.
Yeah, you're a pretty easygoing guy, Tim.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to take you places. Don't get too high and too low.
Yeah. I hope.
Okay. Tim, let me ask you a little bit about, again, back in Port Jervis, what was the best thing that you enjoyed about your time in Port Jervis High School?
The thing I probably enjoyed most was probably playing ball.
Okay. I know you did very well with the football team. Did you play baseball too?
I didn't play baseball, only football.
So just football?
Yep.
And winter and spring, you were just working out and stuff?
Pretty much. Just working out, hanging out.
Okay. And what do you miss most about being in Port Jervis?
That's probably playing football.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Maybe my friends, I guess.
Okay.
They all joined the Army now, so.
Yeah. Some guys here from Port?
Yeah, a lot of guys joined.
Can you mention their names? Is that
Patrick Almick's in basic training right now.
Okay.
You probably remember him, class speaker.
Yeah.
Zach Beers is in basic training right now.
Yeah.
And Robert Whitney, he's about to leave this Sunday.
And did you influence them to join?
I don't know. I know Zach Beers was kind of out of the blue.
Yeah.
But I know Patrick's always talked about it and everything, and I was like, yeah, if you want to.
Okay.
So.
Tim, one of the things we started doing to really show some respect and acknowledge young men like yourself and women that are going to the military from our community was that walking with the flag at graduation. Is that something that you enjoyed or you remembered? Were you happy to do that?
It was pretty cool. I enjoyed it.
Okay.
I think you should keep doing it.
We got a lot of good feedback from it, and certainly the people standing. And when I ask former military to stand, and it's a really, I get filled up. I'm on that mic, but I look at you guys. We're sending our kids off to college, and then I look at those young men and women holding the flag, and it's like, wow, they've chose to do something different and really sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
Tim, did it ever, I go to work every morning. My brother-in-law is a police officer, Ron Bentley. He's going to be on the program here. I have a lot of friends that are cops and firemen. I go to work every morning, and I kind of always hoping for the best. It never really crosses my mind like I could be injured or God forbid killed. That doesn't enter my mind. Is that something like each day you wake up like? That could does that go through your mind at all? Is that something you kind of when you signed on the line
maybe? I mean, it really hasn't hit me yet. I'm hanging out in the continental United States. Nothing's really too dangerous here unless you live in Chicago or something crazy.
Yeah.
But no, it doesn't really bother me. Maybe if you get deployed, that's a different mindset. But I still haven't been there, so I really can't comment on that.
Yeah. And now you're in a year and a half, or just almost a year and a half. What is the next 2.5 years, what is the new 2.5 years for you and when do you have to make that decision of what you're going to do?
Next 2.5 years, I'll be in the real Army instead of training and everything. Mm-hmm. So I'll just train better at my crafts and all that. Do that, maybe go on a deployment, fight for my country. Do some local calls around here with ordnance, be sweeping I think they have helicopter ranges up at Fort Drum, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And if something they launch off that doesn't detonate the way it's supposed to, you gotta take care of that. It's just taking care of basic stuff around.
Okay. Tim, back to Port Jervis, again, thinking about leadership. Did you have any experiences in Port where you felt good leadership or things that you said like, hey, man, I want to do that because I saw so-and-so do that, like any of your teachers or things like that really impacted your life in a positive way?
I really liked Mr. Higgins. He taught shop.
Yeah.
He was pretty cool. He talked to you like some teachers kind of talk down on you and everything, but he kind of talk to you like you're one of his friends, you know?
Okay.
I thought he was a very good teacher.
And you enjoyed his company?
Absolutely.
Okay. What else, Tim? Was there anything else that you miss other than football from Port Jervis?
I haven't been here for a while, but I know it's a really tight-knit community, small town.
Mm-hmm.
But I've kind of been experiencing that in the Army. So,
did you have any comparable things that happened, something that happened in Port Jervis and then it happened in the Army and you said like, oh yeah, I've been through that. Did you have any experiences at Port that prepared you for your time in the Army so far?
Maybe sucking at football camp, going through all that stuff. I don't know, just everybody comes together if there's a hard time, kind of like Port Jervis does, I guess.
Yeah. Tim, do you find yourself rooting for the Army football team now?
Oh, absolutely. I've always loved the Army football team.
Yeah, they're here local in Port Jervis. I know they're playing Duke today on Veterans Day.
All right.
So that's good. All right. Tim, I have some rapid-fire questions here, but before I get to those, this is something we ask in an interview to people. Besides you being in the Army and your family, what is something that you are most proud of?
Something I'm most proud of? I don't know, I really like being outdoors. I don't think that counts as being proud of something. I guess respecting nature maybe. But no, that's where I really like being a lot.
Are you a hunter, Tim?
I am.
Yeah? Okay. What do you hunt around here?
I really hunt anything that's in season. Yep, deer.
Okay. Bow and arrow? You ever go out there with Mr. Leonard with the bow and arrow?
I haven't messed with the bow and arrow yet.
Okay.
I have mine set up for bow fishing.
Okay.
Fish with a bow.
Tim, 5 years from now, where do you see yourself?
It still depends. I still haven't been in the real Army, so we'll see how that goes. If I like that, maybe I'll re-enlist. But if I don't, I was thinking about re-enlisted in the National Guard. So you're home most of the time. You just go to train a weekend out of the month. And I was going to go to college while I was doing that.
And what do you want to study in college, Tim?
I'm thinking about just doing a business degree, and then thinking about being a mountain bike guide while I still have the body for it, and then I might get a real job. We'll see.
Get a real job.
Yeah. I don't want to grow up, so.
There's the trails here up on Point Peter, and there's a lot. They had a huge mountain bike race. I don't know if you heard about it here in town.
Yeah, I was, a week away from missing that.
Yeah.
Almost.
But it was huge. I think it really almost doubled in size, and I know it brings a lot of people into town. Okay. Well, Tim, if you were hosting the show and you were me, what is something that I should have asked you that I didn't?
I think you covered all the bases.
Okay. All right, let's go with some rapid-fire questions, Tim. These are quick answers. If you want to expand a little bit, we'll give you a little time, but quick answers. Best thing about being in the Army?
Best thing about being in the Army? Ooh, probably the benefits.
Okay.
Much free stuff.
The thing that is most challenging for you in the Army?
It's going to sound weird, but shaving. I hate shaving. I had a beard in high school.
You did have this.
Yeah.
You have to shave every day?
I do.
Did they make you shave your head when you got there?
Basic training just so you don't get a disease or anything.
Yeah, you got the great hair. Most important characteristic of leadership in your opinion?
Probably respect. It goes hand in hand.
Okay, and that was, again, the first point of the show. I asked you about your favorite teacher at Port Jervis. Was there any other teachers that impacted you in a positive manner?
Oh, yeah, all of them probably, somehow or another. But elaborate on one, maybe Mr. Rollman. He really got people's attention. I know he's on the show next week, if I'm not mistaken.
He is coming on the show, the owner and CEO of Club 110.
Heck yeah.
You enjoyed him.
He's a good guy.
He's a good guy. Last movie you watched, Tim?
Hitman's Bodyguard. Good movie.
Okay. What do you watch a lot of the military films, Tim? Do you find yourself now going towards those?
I don't know. None of them really come out recently. So I haven't really messed with them. I haven't been in the movies in like 3 months.
Yeah. Well, you've been busy?
Kind of. Just been relaxed on the weekends.
Do they give you free time, though? Do you have free, leave? Do you get to?
Yeah, you get 30 days to leave a year. But on the weekends, you're done. Most of the time, you do what you want.
Okay. And is that where a lot of the people you were in school with got in trouble?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, that's when it all happens. Bad things.
In school, you had to watch out for Murata. In basic training, you had to watch out for...
everybody else.
Everybody else. Okay. All right. Did you have any of those early morning 4 a.m. things?
Hey, well, you're up at 4 a.m. every day anyway.
Every day?
Most of the time.
Is it a horn? Is it a bell?
In basic training, yeah, they come in with an air horn. They mess with you, yeah, but
they walk in with an air horn at 4 a.m.
Yep.
Ooh. Did you ever have any times in there where you were like, man, I can't do it today? Did that ever happen?
No, you're kind of just scared all the time, so it's all right.
You're so easygoing, Tim. I like it. Well, Tim, I know your parents are tuning in today, your family. What is something that you want to say to your parents? Again, they both served in the military. It's Veterans Day. What would be something that you want to say to your parents?
Something I want to say to my parents. Just thanks for everything you've done to me throughout my life, and I guess I'll probably be with them when they're listening to this. So
that's right. That's right. And how about any to our military personnel listening, active or retired veterans? What would you say to them?
I just still say thanks for taking the stand, and thanks for keep on doing what you're doing.
Great. We will be right back. We have one last segment with today's guest, Tim Shearer. We'll be right back on Education, Leadership, and Beyond. Welcome back, everyone, to Education, Leadership, and Beyond, Surviving and Thriving. This is show number 23. My name is Andrew Murata. I am the principal at Port Jervis High School. I have one of my former students here in studio today, Tim Shearer. Before we get back to Tim, I do want to do a quick recap of today's show. We talked about some thoughts on the military, how we started chatting about how I've seen a chipping away of the level of respect of young people, and that when I do meet men and women in the military, when I get to go to those military academies, it reinforces some of these concepts of respect, discipline, a good versus evil, freedom. That we live in a free country. Tim and I spoke a little bit about the people that are protesting and they're kneeling during the national anthem. And the ironic thing is that they can do that because we live in a free country. If we live somewhere else, they might drag them out and beat them and throw them in a cell. They represent a standard of excellence. Our people in the military. Structure and organization. I was proud of Tim. He rattled off from the president right down to first class. He went through all the positions of leadership and the chain of command. And lastly, as an educator myself, always very impressed with the academies. West Point, the Naval Academy, and the Air Force Academy. They represent academic excellence in our military. So that was today's opening concept. If you do have a comment or a question that you would like to send in, please email in the show, andrew@neversinkmediagroup.com. Shoot it to at Andrew Murata21 on Twitter. And also you can contact me on my website, andrewmurata.com. Also, if you've been listening, I did write my first book. It is called The Principle, Surviving and Thriving. Past podcasts are on that website, as well as information about my book. So before we get back to Tim, I am in studio with my handy-dandy, trusty producer, making me sound good. Gavin, I didn't have any curse words today, so you didn't have to hit the beep button. We did okay in that department.
Yes, although I do enjoy hitting the bleep button. I get a kick out of that.
Both my mom and my mother-in-law. Listen, Gavin, I don't want to get in trouble with the curse words, but I know you like the.
I'm like the MPAA. I censor what needs to be censored.
Gavin, I did want to ask you, you've mentioned your parents a couple times. Do you have family that have been or are in the military?
My parents, no, but both my grandfathers fought in World War II, one for the United States, one for Great Britain, and I had at least two uncles and more cousins than I could name. My mother would know that. She's into the family history. And the way I think about it is, I'd hear stories from my father's father who fought for Great Britain. He watched his friends die in front of him. And what I get frustrated with, but this is the freedom that they fought for, is not just the people who kneel for the during the national anthem. I see people out there who glorify Nazis. I think to myself, my family was out fighting against those forces once upon a time, but that's the freedom that we enjoy, that people can go out and kneel during the anthem or glorify, horrible people. That's the freedom we have here. No one's going to, as you said, drag them off or, like they would in some countries. But that's my military background in the family. And if either of my grandfathers had been killed in the war, then I wouldn't be here. So
yeah. How about that, Gavin? And, it's ironic talking about that. Kids at school will say something offensive to somebody else or in a disrespectful manner. And, I have freedom of speech. I said, well, you might, but not in this building. You still can't do that. That's against the rules. And but people certainly quick to throw that card. So I do want to welcome back in today's guest, Tim Shearer. And Tim is a member of the Army. He just graduated EOD school. Tim, I very much appreciate you taking time out. You only have 2 weeks here before you have to go back. So
yep,
spending some time here on education, leadership, and beyond.
Absolutely. Still an honor to be here.
Tim, was it a little weird for you to be on your principal's radio program? Was that?
It's a little strange, but this is my first ever radio interview ever.
And you did great. Tim, we do have a write-in portion of the show that we do have a question for you. And again, if you want to send in questions, Andrew at neversinkmediagroup.com is the email. Tim, the question is, where is it? What would you tell a high school student who is contemplating joining the military, being that now you have about a year and a half in? What would you tell a high school student?
I tell them definitely join with an open mind. You're going to meet people you've never met before. Just strange people, I guess. I thought they were strange. Definitely expect the worst, and you won't think it's that bad. That's probably my biggest thing. You don't have to be the most physically fit person to start out as. You're going to be there by the time you get out. But just have a strong mental attitude, be open-minded about things, and just treat everyone with general respect, and you should be fine.
And Tim, I know you're doing some recruiting the next 2 weeks. Have you done it yet? Have you gone to any schools in your uniform?
No, today was my first day, and they just sent me back and told me to start Monday. So
okay. And will you come to Port Jervis? Is that on your?
I'm not sure. I haven't really talked to anybody yet. It'd
be nice to have you back in uniform, and that would be exciting.
All right,
Tim, I asked you about leadership in the military. Do they talk about teamwork? Is that something you mentioned about football and you missed football? Did they teach you about teamwork? Is that something that you?
Absolutely, you do a lot of everything you do is as a team, pretty much. Like you do just basic team building exercises all the time, just to get better at working as a team.
And is it something that they talk about on a daily basis about helping your brother or sister? And
for sure. I mean, even if you're going out for a formation or anything, so you're just in a normal uniform and somebody forgets a PT belt or whatever, like you go and just tell them, hey, you're missing this. Just general look out for each other all the time. Watch each other's backs.
Tim, how about some cool sayings? Are there any cool sayings that they they would use?
No, not really.
People always like to tell me, Mr. Mariah, can you yell "Go Port" or can you yell 2 claps? Does the Army have some sort of?
No, not really.
No, nothing that you brought home with you.
I mean, the EOD school is a Navy school, so all the services go there. And the skipper there always said, "Hoo-yah EOD." I thought that was kind of cool.
Can you do it in his voice, Tim? Can you give me
I don't think I could reenact it as well as he could. So. Nope.
All right, everybody. This was Tim Shearer. Again, Tim, be careful out there.
Absolutely.
On Veterans Day, I know you're not a veteran, but I wanted to have a former student who is serving our country in the military on today, and you came highly recommended, so you did great with us today. Before we go, we have our quote, and Tim mentioned one of his favorite teachers, Brian Rollman. Coach Brian Rollman will be next week's guest on Education, Leadership, and Beyond. And today's quote to end the show, it is from Douglas MacArthur. I was at West Point recently, and it's out near the football field. So he's talking about athletic competition, Tim, and he says this: upon the fields of friendly strife are sown the seeds that, upon other fields, on other days, will bear the fruits of victory. And obviously talking about that competition of football and that competitiveness, that it's going to take you further in life. And that was from Douglas MacArthur, and it is out on the field near West Point. Again, upon the fields of friendly strife are sown the seeds that, upon other fields on other days, will bear the fruits of victory. That is all today on Education, Leadership, and Beyond, Surviving and Thriving. We are on WDLC, WYNY, Wall Radio, and Pocono 96.7. My name is Andrew Murata, and we are signing off show number 23. Go out and change the world for the better. Have a great day, everyone.